1. Stephan Mitchell Adams. Adams called his girlfriend on his cellular phone at 11 a.m. on December 13, 2004, and told her he was giving a man a ride to Keys, Oklahoma. He was in good spirits at the time of the conversation. Authorities later determined that at the time he spoke to his girlfriend, Adams had been south of Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Someone tried to call his phone at 11:30 a.m. and it rang only once before going to voicemail. All calls after that were transferred immediately to voicemail. Between 11:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. he was seen at a convenience store in Cookson, Oklahoma. Adams appeared to be upset and agitated at the time. He purchased a soda, then stood outside the store for about 5 minutes. Before he left the vicinity in his pickup, he was apparently alone. He has never been heard from again. Authorities consider Adams's disappearance suspicious and foul play is possible in his case. His vehicle, a white 1995 or 1998 GMC SCI 1-ton truck with a short bed, chrome bead rails, no tail light covers, and the Oklahoma license plate number SC714, is also missing. A photograph of a similar truck is posted with this case summary. Adams has not used his credit cards or cellular phone since his disappearance, and he left all of his personal belongings behind and money in his dresser. He was a student at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah at the time of his disappearance. He had previously attended Haskell Indian Nations University in Kansas. Adams hoped to get an engineering degree and a job in management. Investigators would like to identify and interview a possible witness in Adams's disappearance. He was seen at a Dollar General store on East Downing Street in Tahlequah, close to Adams's apartment, on the morning of December 13. They described the individual as a Caucasian male, 5'11" and 180 to 200 pounds. With brown and salt and pepper collar-length hair and about 4 days' growth of salt and pepper facial hair. He was between 40 and 50 years old in 2004 and was wearing a tan Carhartt jacket, faded blue or black jeans, a flannel shirt, a dark green stocking cap, and eyeglasses. He drove a charcoal-colored or faded black 2000 Ford Ranger pickup truck with a chrome toolbox. A sketch of the individual is posted with this case summary. Authorities stated that the individual arrived at the store at 7:50 a.m. and hung around in the parking lot for hours. He claimed he was waiting for someone, but no one appeared to meet him. He mentioned to a passerby that he worked at a construction site in Keys, which is just south of Tahlequah. The man left the parking lot just before 11 a.m., around the time Adams disappeared. The person is not being called not a suspect in Adams's case, but police feel he has information that may assist the investigation. He has yet to be identified. Adams was involved in a very contentious custody battle with his ex-wife over their daughter at the time of his disappearance. He wanted custody of her or at least to be allowed to see her. But his ex-wife objected to this and refused to comply with the court's visitation order. Adams was charged twice with molesting the child, but in neither instance was there enough evidence to take him to trial. The custody matter had been going on for over 2 years and there was an important hearing about it scheduled in Muskogee County District Court for a few days after Adams vanished. Authorities do not believe the timing was a coincidence. A few weeks after Adams disappeared, his family received a telephone threat from an unidentified individual who stated that they would be harmed if the investigation into Adams's disappearance did not end. The caller has not been identified. Adams resided in the 400 block of East Downing Street in Tahlequah at the time of his disappearance. His case remains unsolved. 2. Amber Renee Barker. Amber was last seen at approximately 6 p.m. on December 18, 1997. In her hometown of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Her mother spoke to her on the phone while she was at a friend's home and told her to come home. She left her friend's residence and was last seen riding her blue 10-speed bicycle in the 3000 block of Northwest 45th Street at the time. Amber was on her way to her home in the 3100 block of Northwest 39th Street. She never arrived and has never been heard from again. Amber's bicycle was discovered abandoned in Denistine Park in Oklahoma City on December 19, the day following her disappearance. The bike was located near Northwest 27th Street and Drexel Boulevard, which is 1 mile from her home. Amber's sweater, shoes, One sock and a ring were found along Drexel Boulevard and Northwest 12th Street on December 20. One of her shoes was a block away from the other one. Investigators stated that blood, hair and fiber evidence was discovered near Amber's possessions. There were blue fibers and vomit on her sweater, and a speck of blood on her shoe, but the blood spot was so small that authorities could not link it to any specific person. Authorities were able to form a partial DNA profile for an unknown man from the evidence on the sweater. Daniel John Smith, Amber's sister's common-law husband, was previously convicted of attempted kidnapping in 1995. He admitted that he assaulted a woman in Oklahoma City while he was intoxicated and tried to steal her car keys. The woman says he tried to rape her. Smith pleaded guilty and was sentenced to a 5-year deferred prison sentence, and 4 months at a boot camp, where he earned excellent reviews. The police had been summoned to another of Amber's sister's homes in November 1997. Approximately 1 month before the child disappeared. Her sister claimed that Smith hit her after she refused to have sexual relations with him. He was given a citation by authorities but was not arrested. Smith was allegedly at Amber's residence when she called her mother to say she was returning home. He left the residence immediately afterwards and headed west, the same direction Amber was coming from. Smith was questioned about Amber on the day after her disappearance, and authorities wanted to interview him further, but he discovered hanged from a tree at Ray Trent Park in Del City, Oklahoma at 11:30 p.m. on December 22, 1997, 4 days after Amber was last seen. Investigators determined he committed suicide. Smith was not labeled as a suspect at the time. Authorities simply said they wanted to question him regarding Amber's case. Amber's disappearance remains unsolved. She was a 4th-grade student at James Monroe Elementary School at the time of her disappearance. Her loved ones stated she wasn't having any personal problems when she went missing. Neither does she have a history as a runaway. Over the course of the past 20 years of investigation, nothing definitive has been found in order to locate the child's remains or at least find out who is behind her disappearance. Due to the evidence found in the search for Amber Renee Barker, authorities believe that she was the victim of foul play. More than one person of interest has come up in this case, none of which have ever been charged or convicted in association with her disappearance or death. One person stands out in the lineup of potential suspects in this case, however, but there will never be any closure if he was involved. Daniel John Smith, the husband of Amber's older sister, was questioned following the child's disappearance. Smith had a reported history of being accused of similar crimes, so he seemed like an ideal person of interest. Unfortunately, Daniel John Smith committed suicide by hanging, just 4 days following the disappearance of Amber Barker. Police never declared him a suspect, even after his suspicious suicide. One of Amber's sisters died in 2013, and her mother died in 2014. Foul play is suspected due to the circumstances involved in her case. 3. LAURIA JAYLENE Bible. LAURIA spent the evening of December 30, 1999 at her friend Ashley Freeman's trailer home near Welch, Oklahoma to celebrate the latter's birthday. LAURIA Bible. LAURIA's mother said that Kathy Freeman, Ashley's mother, took the girls to the Pizza Hut in Vinita, Oklahoma during the evening. LAURIA's statement contradicts authorities' belief that Kathy and the girls visited Big Bill's Barbecue in the 350 block of North Wilson Street in Vinita, Oklahoma. The group traveled in Kathy's blue Toyota and picked up feed for the Freemans' livestock, as well as water from Kathy's mother's house. The Freemans' trailer did not have running water and was primarily heated by a wood-burning stove in the living room. The family was described as avid hunters and outdoor enthusiasts who enjoyed living in the remote location. The trailer was equipped with telephone service and electricity. There were numerous firearms stockpiled inside the home and Ashley assisted with hunting for food. Ashley's boyfriend, Jeremy Hurst, told investigators that he met the women at a local Walmart after their dinner. He gave Ashley a silver chain with a heart-shaped pendant embedded with her birthstone for her birthday present. Hurst said that he returned to the Freemans' home with the women shortly afterwards. He said that nothing appeared to be amiss and he departed at approximately 9:30 p.m. Ashley's father, Danny Freeman, had relatives over during the evening who claimed that Hurst actually left at 10:30 p.m. Authorities said that no outgoing telephone calls were made from the family's home during the night. Kathy planned to take Ashley to her driver's test the following morning. LAURIA had a dental appointment scheduled for the following morning, and planned to leave the trailer shortly beforehand. A passing motorist reported a fire in the vicinity of the Freemans' residence at approximately 6 a.m. the following morning. Authorities discovered Kathy's remains inside the debris during the afternoon. Investigators initially stated that they were positive no other bodies were inside the home, and did not secure the location during the overnight hours. Danny was considered the prime suspect in his wife's murder. Authorities believed that he may have abducted Ashley and LAURIA and traveled elsewhere, but all of the Freemans' vehicles were parked near their home. LAURIA's car was also nearby and the keys were inside the ignition. Laureen discovered LAURIA's purse propped inside the trailer, but there was no other evidence of the girls at the scene. J. Bible, LAURIA's father, discovered Danny's body in the bedroom of the mobile home during the following morning. The Bibles returned to the trailer in an attempt to gather more evidence as to their daughter's whereabouts. Both Danny and Kathy had died as the result of gunshot wounds. Danny's body was partially covered by debris inside the bedroom, explaining why his remains were overlooked. The medical examiner determined that Danny's right collarbone had been fractured prior to the entrance of the fatal wound. The coroner determined that Kathy died at approximately 5 a.m. Investigators believe that the fire was intentionally set in an attempt to destroy evidence of the crimes. An extensive search for the girls produced no evidence as to their whereabouts. Laureen told reporters that Ashley had been saving her money to purchase a used vehicle in December 1999. Laureen said that she believed Ashley had accumulated $1,200 in her savings account. Hurst said that Ashley actually claimed to have saved between $3,000 and $4,000 for the car. She was employed part-time at Roscoe's, a convenience store in Welch. Hurst said that Ashley did not have a bank account. She kept her money sealed in a Tupperware container in the family's freezer. Authorities were unable to locate any evidence of the cash after the fire. Laureen stated that Ashley and Danny had been arguing earlier in the month regarding the vehicle. She claimed that Ashley wanted to purchase a different car than Danny had desired. Danny reportedly had a violent temper and had been charged with abusing his son, Shane. In 1998, he was acquitted of the charges. In 1999, Danny consistently protested the allegations. Oklahoma law enforcement officer David Hayes shot and killed the Freeman's son, Shane. In 1998, Hayes was on duty at the time of the incident. Shane was on a country road in possession of a stolen vehicle at the time Hayes encountered him. The car had apparently broken down. Shane allegedly reached behind his back and pulled a gun, prompting Hayes to fire at him. The incident was investigated and Hayes' actions were found to be justified. Hayes and his brother, who is also a law enforcement officer, said they both took polygraph exams after the girls' 1999 disappearances. Neither of them are considered suspects in the investigations. Hayes and his brother have not participated in the active cases. Several of Danny's relatives believe that local law enforcement was behind the murders and the girls' disappearances, but no evidence has been located to support the theory. Freeman family members also believe that Shane was attempting to flee the scene at the time of his death, and claim that his autopsy report contradicts the official verdict. Photos of Danny, Kathy and Shane are posted with this case summary. There was speculation that Ashley and LAURIA were involved in the Freemans' murders after the searches failed to produce evidence as to their whereabouts. Investigators stated that there was nothing in either girl's background to suggest they could be capable of such brutal acts. Ashley was a member of the Welch High School basketball team, although she was unable to participate in the 1999 season as the result of an ankle injury. LAURIA was a cheerleader and planned to become a cosmetologist after her high school graduation. Both girls were viewed as being well-behaved teenagers in 1999. Several possible suspects were investigated over the years, including the serial killers Tommy Lynn Sells and Jeremy Bryan Jones. In April 2018, 18 years after the two teens vanished, police announced that they had made a serious break in the case. Authorities now believe that three men, identified as Warren Phillip Phil Welch II, David A. Pennington and Ronnie Dean Bissick, went to the trailer that night, killed Danny and Kathy, set the fire and took the girls. Pennington and Welch are now deceased and Bissick has been arrested and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of kidnapping and 1 count of arson. A photo of Bissick is posted with this case summary. According to investigators' theory, Ashley and LAURIA were kept alive for an unknown number of days after they were abducted. The 3 suspects took Polaroid photos of the girls while they were captives. They told multiple people they were holding them, and showed them the pictures. Bissick is awaiting trial for Ashley and LAURIA's murders. Authorities still hope to recover the girls' bodies, and the case remains under investigation. Foul play is suspected in their cases due to the circumstances involved. 4. Colton Levi Clark. Colton resided with his aunt and uncle, James Rex Clark, who goes by his middle name, and Rebecca Faith Clark, at the time of his disappearance. They had obtained legal custody of him after he was taken from his parents. Rex and Rebecca reported they last saw him at their Utica, Oklahoma home at approximately 1 p.m. on April 20, 2006. Colton's aunt and uncle stated they noticed he was missing when it was time to go. His backpack and his favorite red shoes reportedly disappeared also. They theorized he had run away from home. Tracker dogs were unable to trace Colton's scent away from home. Rex and Rebecca stated Colton was mistreated by his parents, both of whom had substance abuse problems. He and his older brother, Homer, came to live with their aunt and uncle 3 years prior to Colton's disappearance, and had their names changed. The boys were both homeschooled. Because of their living situation, both Colton and his brother were legally wards of state. Caseworkers from the Oklahoma Department of Human Services, DHS, repeatedly tried to meet with the boys, but each time they scheduled a meeting, Rex and Rebecca would cancel it. The DHS finally insisted on seeing the children and a caseworker was going to come over on April 20. Rex and Rebecca stated Colton was frightened of the DHS and jumped out a window before the caseworker arrived, and they never saw him again. Police stated Colton's guardian seemed uninterested in finding him and didn't appear to be worried about him. They also referred to him in the past tense. Rex told police he had trained both his nephews in survival techniques, and thought Colton could live on his own for months. The Clarks initially agreed to take a lie detector test, but changed their minds and wouldn't go through with it. Rebecca stated Rex was taking psychiatric medication and she thought that might influence the results of the test. Homer was removed from his aunt and uncle's home shortly after Colton disappeared. He was adopted by another family, changed his name again and moved to Tennessee. In April 2016, Rex and Rebecca were charged with first-degree murder, child abuse, child neglect and conspiracy in Colton's case. Photos of Rex and Rebecca are posted with this case summary. According to the arrest affidavits and search warrants filed, Homer told investigators that he and his brother had been severely abused by their aunt and uncle. They were shocked with an electric cattle prod and beaten with extension cords and broomsticks. Homer said that sometime in early March 2006, Rex and Rebecca accused Colton of stealing a turquoise ring and, when he denied it, they beat him severely for almost 45 minutes. Homer woke up at 2:35 a.m. and saw Colton lying under a sleeping bag on the couch afterward, his face severely bruised and bloodied. He wasn't sure whether Colton was breathing at the time. Homer went to sleep and when he woke up a few hours later, at 5:15 a.m., both Colton and the sleeping bag were gone. Rex was awake and already dressed, something Homer thought was odd, since he usually didn't get up that early in the morning. Rex and Rebecca initially said they didn't know where Colton was. When Homer suggested they call the police, Rex said they were not going to call anyone and then kicked Homer in the abdomen. Later, Rex and Rebecca told Homer that Colton's biological father had come and picked him up, and threatened to kill him if he ever told anyone. They made Homer rehearse multiple false stories to explain Colton's disappearance. He was 11 years old at the time. He never saw his brother again. The Clarks were tried for murder and 4 counts of child abuse by injury against Colton and his brother in October 2017. Homer was the only witness. After 3 hours of deliberation, a jury convicted Rex and Rebecca of all counts and recommended a sentence of life in prison for both of them. Foul play is suspected in Colton's disappearance due to the circumstances involved. 5. Joyce and Josephine Yvette COGBURN. Josephine and her younger sister, Joyce, were staying at family friend's apartment in Norman, Oklahoma. The individual reported the sisters' disappearance on October 2, 1983. He claimed that he was out that day and Josephine and Joyce were supposed to go to the library, and when he came home they were gone. They have never been heard from again. All their belongings were left behind. Investigators initially believed they'd run away from home, but as time passed without anyone seeing or hearing from the sisters, they began to suspect foul play. Joyce and Josephine's father was killed in a car accident in 1968. Their mother was pregnant with Joyce at the time, and Josephine was an infant. She gave the two girls to their paternal grandparents. Their older sister, Rosetta, went to her maternal grandmother. The sisters were reunited in 1975. After their mother remarried, she made her second husband leave their home over allegations that he tried to molest Joyce and Josephine. In 1983, Joyce and Josephine were having disciplinary problems at home in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. They left and moved in with their family friend in Norman. He was granted temporary custody of them, then they disappeared. The sisters may have been involved with drugs at the time of their disappearances. There have been possible sightings of them since they vanished, and investigators think they may still be alive, but none of the reports have been confirmed. Their older sister believes the family friend murdered Joyce and Josephine. He has been interviewed several times by police and never ruled as a suspect in the COGBURN's cases. He's considered a person of interest. In mid-September 1983, Josephine told Rosetta that Joyce and the man had been dating, but Joyce now had a new boyfriend and didn't want anything to do with her guardian. Rosetta theorizes the man killed both teens in a jealous rage. She says he never returned the girls' belongings, like clothes and photo albums, to the COGBURN family, even though they asked him to. Neither sister's names, birth certificates or social security numbers have been used since October 1983. Their disappearances remain unsolved and foul play is suspected. 6. Monique Christine Daniels. Monique was last seen by a neighbor on June 2, 1992 in Moore, Oklahoma. The witness told authorities that she was loading clothes into a blue Chevrolet pickup truck driven by an unidentified Caucasian male. She has never been heard from again. According to one of Monique's friends, she was abused by her biological father, who is now in prison for sex offenses. Monique lived with her mother, Cantice Daniels, stepfather, Charles Chuck Daniels, her 3 siblings and her 2 half-siblings in 1992. She was the oldest child in the family. Her stepfather was a sergeant in the Air Force and her mother was also in the military. Monique disappeared while her mother and 2 of her siblings, Angelique and Brian, were touring with their church choir for a week. When they returned home, Chuck simply said she's gone again. Angelique would later state that the house, which was normally kept very clean, was in a state of disarray and there was an empty pregnancy test box lying out on the bathroom counter. Monique's parents didn't report her as a missing person because, they said, they believed she had run away from home. She had run away earlier after she became pregnant, and her parents forced her to have an abortion, but her best friend convinced her to return home. In January 1993, Monique's maternal aunt contacted the police to inquire about her case and learned no missing persons report had been filed. She asked Cantice about it, and 2 days later, Cantice said Monique had called home and spoken to her younger sister, Angelique, and said she was safe. A week after that, a letter supposedly from Monique, postmarked Dallas, Texas, arrived in the mail. A second letter arrived in September 1993. The letter said Monique had gotten married and given birth to a daughter. Nothing further was heard. Monique's aunt asked the police to check the handwriting on the letters and see if it was really hers. But before they could do that, the letters and some other items were stolen in a reported burglary at the Daniels family home. In January 1994, Angelique ran away from home and moved in with an aunt in Michigan. When she left her Oklahoma home, Cantice and Chuck reported her missing immediately. After Angelique arrived at her aunt's home, she filed complaints against her mother and stepfather, alleging physical and mental abuse. She also told the police that Chuck had made her write the letters they said were from Monique, and that he drove her to Texas so they could mail them. The phone call had been a fabrication as well. Angelique said Chuck had convinced her to go along with his plan so they could provide reassurance for Cantice, who had become suicidal in the wake of her oldest daughter's disappearance. When the police asked Chuck about Angelique's allegations, he admitted they were all true. Cantice finally filed a missing persons report at this time. Neither of them would agree to take a polygraph test about Monique's case. One of Monique and Angelique's brothers, Andrew, also alleged there was child abuse in the home. He stated that on the day of Monique's disappearance, she and her stepfather had been fighting. Chuck decided to go on a spontaneous fishing trip with his sons and told them to say goodbye to Monique. He only let them say goodbye to her through her cracked bedroom door. When Andrew looked in, he saw Monique sitting cross-legged and still on the floor. She didn't say anything to him. The others left to go fishing in the rain, without their fishing poles, and according to Andrew, Chuck drove for 2 hours in one direction, stopped at a fast food restaurant, then drove back home. He parked the car in the garage and left it there with the boys inside for approximately an hour while he was inside the house. Chuck then let the boys inside, told them he was going to look for Monique, and locked them in his bedroom for 2 days. One of Monique's other brothers recalled this incident and noted that there was an oil barrel in the back of Chuck's truck at the time. When questioned by the media about Monique's siblings' allegations, Chuck and Cantice denied them and claimed Angelique was mentally unstable and unreliable, and both she and Andrew have substance abuse issues, something Angelique and Andrew have both denied. Monique's parents refused to make any further statements. They have not been named as suspects in her case, but police did dig up the yard at their former home to see if Monique was buried there. Her case remains unsolved. 7. Leonard Neal Dirickson. Dirickson was last seen at his farmhouse in Strong City, Oklahoma on March 14, 1998. His son told authorities that an unidentified Caucasian male arrived at Dirickson's home during the day. The individual drove a white 1994 Ford F-150 extended cab pickup truck with a yellow tag on the vehicle's front end. The vehicle may have had New Mexico license plates. A sketch of the man is posted with this case summary. Dirickson's son said that his father told him the man wanted to view a horse he had for sale. He claimed they planned to travel to Elk City, Oklahoma and Mobeetie, Texas during the day. Dirickson said that they would return to the farm later in the evening. Neither Dirickson nor the man have been heard from again. Dirickson never advertised that he had a horse for sale. Investigators believe that the presumed buyer knew him beforehand. Authorities do not know if the unidentified man was involved in his disappearance. Dirickson's son said the possible suspect had a full reddish-brown beard and wore a cap when he drove to the farm. He was approximately 41 years old in 1998. The man was 6'2" tall and about 210 pounds. He was apparently right-handed and smoked Marlboro Light cigarettes. There have been 2 reported sightings of Dirickson since his 1998 disappearance. A server at the Kettle restaurant in Elk City told authorities that a man resembling Dirickson stopped at the eatery at approximately 11 a.m. on March 14. Investigators believe that the employee may have confused Dirickson with another individual. He had breakfast at home prior to his disappearance, and Dirickson's family members said it was uncharacteristic of him to eat again shortly afterwards. Authorities also received a phone call from an unidentified man in an Amarillo, Texas bar 6 months after Dirickson vanished. The caller claimed that he was seated next to Dirickson in the establishment. Both the caller and the man thought to be Dirickson had disappeared by the time investigators arrived on the scene. Neither of these sightings has been confirmed. Dirickson was left in debt after his 1996 divorce. His family members said he was very close to his son and would never voluntarily leave on his own. Authorities believe that foul play may have been involved in Dirickson's disappearance, but there is little evidence to support any theory. The unidentified man that left with Lenny is described as a white male who at the time was about 41 years old, 6'2", 210 pounds, had a full reddish-brown beard, wore a baseball cap with the words "No Fear", was right-handed, and smoked Marlboro Light cigarettes. He was driving a white Ford pickup truck. He has never been located and is not considered a suspect by police, but they do want to question him. According to a relative, police do have a suspect in the case. The man knew Lenny, lives in Texas, and has allegedly refused to let investigators search his properties. However, no further information is available on the alleged suspect. 8. Crystal Gayle DITTMEYER. Crystal was last seen at approximately 5:30 p.m. at her family's residence in Pickwick Apartments in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma on June 13, 1996. The apartment complex is located on West Interstate 240. Crystal was seen near the swimming pool, which is on the south side of the complex. Her hair was tied up in a bun at the time. Crystal has never been heard from again. Crystal's stepfather, Benjamin Harry Crider Jr., was considered a suspect in her disappearance from the onset of the investigation. A photograph of him is posted with this case summary. Authorities noticed injuries on Benjamin's body on June 14, 1996, the day following Crystal's disappearance. Benjamin appeared to have human bite marks on one of his arms and bruises on one of his shoulders. He claimed he sustained the injuries while replacing the brakes on the car owned by his wife and Crystal's mother, Tammy Jean Crider. Investigators took photographs of Benjamin's injuries and also examined Tammy's vehicle. Authorities stated that there was nothing in the car's brake system, which would have inflicted the type of injuries they observed on Benjamin's body. Crystal's younger half-brother came forward 2 weeks after Crystal vanished and told authorities that he wandered into his parents' bedroom on June 13 after overhearing Benjamin and Tammy arguing. The child claimed he saw Crystal lying motionless in the room. Tammy escorted him out of the apartment and took him shopping afterwards. When they returned, Crystal had disappeared. Tammy denied her son's statements. She has never been charged in connection with her daughter's case. Benjamin was employed as a registered nurse for the Oklahoma State Health Department at the time Crystal vanished. Authorities believe he carried her body to his department vehicle inside of a garment bag while Tammy and their son were at the store on June 13, then disposed of Crystal's remains. Benjamin told authorities that he left their residence at approximately 4:30 p.m. on June 13 to return his vehicle to the health department. The trip from Pickwick Apartments to the department takes 15 minutes. Benjamin claimed he returned to the apartment at approximately 6:30 p.m. 2 hours later. Authorities maintained that he could not satisfactorily explain his whereabouts during the unaccounted time period. Benjamin's supervisor at the health department told investigators that Benjamin attended a seminar on June 13 and handed in a travel voucher with an additional 100 miles added to his authorized driving distance. Tammy told investigators she noticed Benjamin purchased a new garment bag the day after Crystal disappeared, which supported law enforcement's theory that Benjamin carried Crystal's body in his old garment bag. DNA evidence was discovered inside Benjamin's health department vehicle which was consistent with Crystal's blood type. Bloodstains were also located on the carpet, a table leg, a towel, jeans, a brassiere and on a bedspread inside the family's apartment. An empty bottle of hydrogen peroxide was discovered inside the residence as well. The peroxide could have been used to clean additional blood stains from the home. Tammy and Crystal's biological father both took polygraph tests after Crystal vanished. Tammy was asked whether she had caused Crystal to disappear, whether she had worked in collusion with someone else to cause Crystal to disappear, or if she could take investigators to where Crystal was. She answered no to all three questions and failed the test. Her results showed high levels of deception. Benjamin agreed to take the test, but recanted later and refused to participate. The Criders' two other children were removed from their home by Oklahoma Department of Human Services, DHS, shortly after Crystal's disappearance in 1996. Tammy and Benjamin separated afterwards. Investigation revealed that DHS had received 5 complaints regarding Crystal's welfare from her infancy in 1984 until 1991. 5 years prior to her disappearance. The allegations of abuse detailed in the complaints centered around the caregivers employed by Tammy to watch Crystal. The reports insinuated that Tammy was neglectful of Crystal by allegedly ignoring the caregivers' problems. The DHS complaints were either dismissed due to lack of evidence or ruled unfounded. An unidentified witness told DHS that Crystal was allowed to carry cigarette lighters in the early 1990s, and that the child may have been responsible for igniting several fires in her neighborhood at the time due to her allegedly unsupervised home atmosphere. DHS could not discover any evidence regarding the claim and the complaint was dismissed. DHS did begin a new investigation into the Crider's children's welfare following Crystal's 1996 disappearance. Benjamin was charged with Crystal's murder in 1998, and was convicted of the charge later that same year. He was sentenced to life in prison. Prosecutors believe he came home from work and found Crystal in the master bathroom shower, which was against the rules, and that they argued and he killed her. In October 2001, Benjamin's conviction in Crystal's death was struck down by the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. He was retried in October 2004. And Tammy testified against him. The judge declared a mistrial. In September 2005, while awaiting his third trial, Benjamin admitted to causing Crystal's death. He said he struck her in anger and she died, and that he did not intend to kill her. Benjamin pleaded guilty to manslaughter. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but since he had already been incarcerated for 9 years, he was released only a short time after making the plea. Prosecutors stated they were unhappy with the arrangement, but they decided to agree to it because there was not enough evidence to convict Benjamin of murder. When investigators asked Benjamin where Crystal's body was, he said he didn't know. He died of a heart attack in Kentucky in 2008, at the age of 49. Crystal's body has never been located. Foul play is suspected in her case due to the circumstances involved.